Have you ever had any paranormal experiences in Vidya?
Paranormal? No. But I have thousands of hours between Oblivion and Skyrim, and I can say for sure that weird-ass shit will eventually happen if you play those games long enough. I would play late at night with the lights off and headphones on for max immersion, and never fast travel. You see some strange things out in the woods/countryside during the night.
I played Roblox shooter so much I once dreamed I was playing it. Things were going as usual, but then the game chat began to get spammed with, "Get him out, what is happening, stop." Then I got killed by whom the chat was so afraid of, and the foe was named something like, "Lol killed your Wi-Fi." Later in the kill cam, instead of the camera pandering around the player in third person, the mofo broke the fourth wall and stared directly through the monitor and into my soul. I woke up with my heart going at 120 BPM and almost shat my pants too.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2, 3rd stage. When you defeat Dr. Robotnik/Eggman, you break his machine and he then escapes on his flying vehicle, right? But this time it was like his face got stuck in the burst frame, his face was all red, and his vehicle had the bursts all over it. He was looking straight to the screen. It also didn't escape as he usually does, just stood there, and it took longer than usual for the sprite to move out of the scene. I just got really bad vibes from it. Pick related. It was a mix of the two sprites, red mustache and red face. That's the machine, but it doesn't have the bursts all over it.
Goofs aside, years ago I was playing World of Warcraft, running Icecrown Citadel on Alts for the Invincible Mount. Was a weekly occurrence for me on maybe 10 characters or so. So I had a routine I was pretty used to. I'd run the raid as fast as possible, same order every time, while watching shit on YouTube or listening to podcasts. Sometimes I'd goof off in voice chat with my guild. I was playing on the Alliance at the time on my Dwarf Paladin, when I went into the first boss's room, Marrowgar. But I noticed something odd. There was an orc NPC attacking the boss, but not doing any damage. I couldn't target the orc, and the boss didn't seem aware of him either. His outfit wasn't really one I'd expect to see on an NPC either. It was a pretty well-made transmog using some old hunter pieces. After I beat Marrowgar, I noticed the orc turned and faced me. Then ran up ahead. So, I ran up ahead as well. That orc was there for the next boss, then was gone for the ship. It's faction specific. But after that, he was right there again for Sorfang. And this time, he waved in my direction. Our emotes couldn't target each other, but we could still do them toward one another. We went about this entire run, and up at the end, Arthas died and I didn't get invincible. But I did watch the orc dance until he faded away, as if logging out. According to game mechanics, there wasn't any way for us to be in the same raid, it just doesn't work that way.
Yes. I've told this before and others have reported the same, although in few numbers. I was playing Super Mario Bros., and was just screwing around and sending Mario intentionally into the first pit into the fist level. Like I must have zoned out as a kid, like around 11 years old, and did that for at least 15 or 20 minutes. Then suddenly Mario stopped moving even though I was still playing. And he didn't just stop, he turned his head and stared at me. It gave me a cold shock and I probably had saucer eyes and quickly turned off the NES and TV. I stopped playing that game for a little while. It never happened again, but I never tried it again either. Got more Vidya paranormal stories, but that one is a biggie.
My friend insists this really happened. A fire started in a room with no walls or doors in The Sims, bustin' out, killed both his sim and the Grim Reaper, and upon the death of the Grim Reaper, the city bus that picks your sim up for work glitched and parked perpendicular to the street inside of his house. It just doesn't sound possible, but it's what I got.
Not exactly in Minecraft, but I remember a disturbing YouTube video about it. This was way back in the day when the Nether was just added. I watched a YouTube video about a Minecraft mod showcase. Now back during this time mods were not a big thing, there were mainly just texture packs. This mod was a complete fever dream, and felt impossible with the huge amount of content it added. It was a 30-minute video of a guy silently walking through the world, where hundreds of different creepy NPCs and structures littered the place. Lots of occult symbolism like stars and suns with faces on them. A giant jester creature with a huge nose that would let out the creepiest laugh before running at you. Weird giraffe thing on stilt legs, small goblin creatures running around strange houses. There were lots of random items and interactions you could do with these creatures, but nothing followed a logic. The closest thing you can imagine it as is pic related, just far brighter colors and in the voxel style. The noises all the NPCs made was the creepiest part.
One of the most noticeable things that happens to me is that when I'm high, electronics fritz out in the weirdest ways. At one time, I had a friend over, he was high, and he was playing a game on my computer. It almost seemed like his hand touching the mouse zapped it, it glitched so consistently in a way I've never seen before. Stuff that never happens when I'm sober, 100%. Demons man.
Was playing GTA San Andreas co-op with a friend. We were being chased by police and we were on a police motorcycle, with my friend on the back. We come up to one of the larger mountains in the game, going the absolute maximum speed possible. As soon as we need to make a turn, a police car bumps into us from the back and makes us go faster than the maximum speed. This causes us to clip through the mountain, the bike is gone, and we just fall into emptiness for what seems like minutes. After a while of falling, we see a big golden crown just floating in space, rotating with different colored lights on each tip of the crown. We fall a bit more and then we are suddenly teleported back to the mountain, but a little bit off the floor, and we are clipped into each other. This was one of the more interesting glitches I've ever had, because as far as I know that crown should not be in the game.
Be playing Final Fantasy VII Original. Late at night, should have went to bed hours ago. Be really into it though. Also thinking about how cool the lore is. Magic and spooky shit in a futuristic setting. Already scared of Sephiroth and has probably maxed out everything, especially after the Trail of Blood. Hunting chocobos to cross the desert to catch him. Finally get one and start pic related scene. Feeling the creepy evil vibes. Right as the lightning flashes, something crashes to the kitchen floor. Shit self. Go check it out. Literally nothing out of place. No one else woke up. It sounded exactly like someone picked up the cutlery tray and threw that at the floor with a scary amount of strength. I've been afraid of the egregore Sephiroth gamers created ever since.
I was playing TF2 and a guy smashed my door down once. He was some guy who had stalked my family. I always associate playing engineer on 2 Fort with that memory now. I got cut by all of the glass from the door. I think I was around 11 or 12. I guess it's not paranormal, per se, but it's one of my only spooky video game memories. Also, my old Minecraft Xbox 360 world that I played all the time started to generate leafless trees. I don't think it was Herobrine or anything, probably just a weird generation bug.
What the hell? More info on this family stalker. Don't just drop that casually and not elaborate on it.
Basically, when I was around 7 we moved to these newly built council houses. My family were poor fags. There was another family next door and they started off normal enough. However, as time went on, they grew more and more weird and deranged, especially regarding us. They accused my stepfather of putting cocaine in my little sister's baby formula, only drugs he's ever done has been weed, and things like that. They bought maggots and put a ton of them in our front garden. They were just really weird, so much so that we decided to move away. However, the father of that family decided to track us down. I remember playing TF2 on my laptop and my mum came in to look at my window to double check that it was his car, right before he smashed our door in. My family had been subject numerous times to stalkers, actually. My grandmother used to get nightly calls from this guy who would just breathe down the phone and he'd knock on her door and windows at night and such, but he'd never be there when she went and looked. That was around when my mother and uncle were young kids. My family have lots of ghost stories too and weird, psychic stuff too. I'm still pretty doubtful about it all. I just like to keep an open mind. Sorry if I rambled too much.
Coincidentally, in Minecraft. I wouldn't call it paranormal, but more like MK Ultra stuff, I believe. I think 15. I played on some faction servers, the ones for, unofficial, accounts, cracked clients. Being alone, I mainly had fun figuring out ways to steal from other players' bases / griefing them, as well as going around scavenging from old abandoned bases. One time, while walking in a normal forest biome, I start to feel weird. You know how sometimes during the day when you are tired your brain half switches off and you go in autopilot? It was very similar. It progressively got worse. Eventually I found a chest with a sign near it or above it, I don't exactly recall. It said something like, "Take one, leave one. Don't overeat, smiley face." Inside the chest were a lot of diamonds, ender pearls and other rare items, but this is where my cognition really started to fall off. The only way I can describe it is that parts of my brain were shutting off. There were spots of nothing in my vision, not black, nothing. I closed the chest having taken nothing, despite wanting it. My own will was a distant thud in my head, it was like dreaming. Then, around 5 minutes of missing time. I slowly came to later. Not only did I not realize how messed the event was, but whenever I tried to think about it my mind shut down, and I couldn't, think twice about it. This wore off with time, but not completely. Even now thinking about it makes me feel a weight in the middle of the head. I never told this to anyone, for obvious reasons. But I know it happened. I even remember the server's name. I really do think it was some type of MK Ultra type deal, though I have no idea of how they did what they did. I can't bring myself to trust a computer like I used to now.
I've heard lots of stories from family, and seen things myself. I'll just condense it, and throw some minor bits in there that I feel like telling. Psychic people always knew about me. You have a son/grandson with blonde hair and blue eyes, and they would say I have special skills. Used to talk to people that weren't there and talk of a real home with real family and how my real father died as a very young child. Family caught a video of a hand coming around the cupboard in my room and closing it. Doubt they have it anymore. Grandmother was up late, saw a figure in her bedroom. Told my grandfather to stop being an idiot, and the thing darted into her cupboard. Grandmother opened curtains slightly and saw someone else's eyes staring back at her. I could go on for hours, but I doubt it really matters. I just like rambling about it because I sound like a schizo if I tell anyone I actually know about it.
Yeah, I have. Be me. Be 11 years old. Playing Morrowind. Using God mode to fly. Fly into the sky. Find a floating city in the sky. Enter a building. Get instant killed by some god up there. Try to do the same thing a year ago. No city in the sky anywhere. I have a theory on how to replicate it, but sadly whenever I try to play Morrowind on my Windows XP laptop it just doesn't run, and it's the original game from the CD, which makes it even stranger that it won't run.
Are you sure you're not just thinking of Vivek and the Ministry of Truth?
Sounds like this. Probably felt a lot higher with original draw distance. NWAS can't even into Chim.
Nah, it was definitely in the sky. I remember flying straight up.
Not necessarily paranormal, but it felt like being in a shitty real-life creepypasta at the time. Be me, high schooler on weekend night. Friends aren't doing anything IRL or otherwise. Internet's so spotty that night I can't hold a stable connection to them anyways. Boot up ArmA 2 Operation Arrowhead. Decide to play through the shitty single player out of sheer boredom. First level after intro starts with you and your squad getting dropped off by little bird helicopters. For some reason the enemy AI has Terminator aim despite them being camel jockeys. My AI squad gets absolutely slaughtered. Little bird carrying 2 of my squad mates gets shot down. AMD crash lands at the base of a large hill/small mountain. Little bird carrying me and most of my squad lands fine but messed up. Lose one of my squad mates in the ensuing firefight clearing a small town. After clearing the town, I see the 2 squad mates calling for help in the little chat box at the bottom left of the screen. They've been calling for help for a while. Move to the crash site with the couple of AI squad mates I have left. See the 2 that got shot down crawling away from the burning carcass of the little bird. Looks like they're trying to crawl into the mountain, but collision prevents them from doing so. Their faces are covered with blood. They keep spamming the "help me" command, but I can't heal them. AI that died was the squad corpseman if I recall right. Game crashes suddenly.
Silent Hill 3. Brookhaven Hospital Part. Hell section of that level. Get to the room where there's a picture of Lisa Garland from SH1 smiling, pic attached. Stare at that room for a while, is covered in blood and rust, you know, hellish dimension. Lisa's smile is in the middle of the room. Walk down the hallway to get into the room where a guy calls Heather and wishes her a happy birthday. Interact with the door of said room to get in and continue the game. Game crashes. Weird, my PC is pretty good and this game is old AF, maybe the cutscene messed up something and the game crashed. Load my save. Make my way back to that section of the hospital. The room where Lisa's picture was supposed to be no longer has Lisa's picture and the blood and rust is completely different. I frigging lost it. I played SH3 so much to the point I can speedrun the first levels of the game and I never saw this happen before and it has never happened again since. I still have no explanation for this.
Got another one that's more paranormal. Be me, 15 at the time. Playing some shitty Roblox shooter around 3 AM. PC and living room that I slept in at the time. Living room is connected to my kitchen. You can plainly see most of both rooms from either side. Kitchen has windows approximately 7 to 8 feet off the ground. Having fun goofing off. Hear a whistle clear as day from the window by the stove. No other possible source. Whistle is like a hee-hoo teasing whistle, starting high pitch then ending on a lower pitch. Snap my head over to the window. Nothing there. Shit, a 2-story brick house. Grab shitty Chinesium 12-inch stiletto knife my parents bought me for Christmas the year before. Turn PC off and hide under covers on the couch. Fell asleep at some point.
Be kid playing Halo 3 custom games alone. My house has no internet, so I roam the empty map alone. See a Spartan in the distance. Spartan comes to kill me numerous times. Get mad because it seems to take no damage. Rage quit.
Oh, you know those mod sites that you stumble upon when you start to really go beyond page 10 on Google? Those that are poorly constructed and laid out, sometimes with the bare minimum to be called somewhat functional. So, I dreamed about exploring one of those sites for Quake mods. Now the thing is, I barely played Quake in my whole life, but for some reason I was checking out some weird and random maps that weren't even fun in the first place. One of those maps had a checkered floor pattern. It was night and rain was pouring down. I remember exploring it and climbing up some stairs while looking around. There was no sounds, no enemies, no nothing, just random floors that sometimes floated in the void. I remember being afraid for some reason, not terribly afraid, but I distinctly remember facing out of the computer screen and looking around, as if expecting something to jump out at me. I wasn't in my room either. It was this indescribable industrial-ish room, and there was a red mantle covering my legs, like when we do sometimes to get comfy. Nothing else happened. I remember the website being black, and I couldn't read the language either.
Years ago I played a lot of MC Minecraft, you know, the poor version for people that does not have money to buy it. So, I always played offline because it was harder to multiplayer on that version. It wasn't worth the hassle and I didn't care for it anyway. I vividly remember, and I will never forget this on my whole life, because I know the game could never ever connect to any server of any kind. I was walking around and getting out of a forest, when I look up to my left over a small elevation on the grass, and for just a mere millisecond another avatar popped in right by my side as if it was another player. The name above his head was a bunch of random numbers and letters, like 35XSJPQ3_6. And just like that he was gone. He looked to the side and vanished just as quickly as he appeared. Funny thing is that I never felt afraid, and I just thought it was very curious. I really wanted to know what happened that day. Since that day I will always say that at some point Herobrine was a real thing they put on the game.
Playing Minecraft on the 360 with my brother and sister back in 2012-2013, little blurry on the exact date. Have huge citadel that we all lived in and used as our collective home. Spent months building this structure, complete with lots of nether portals and storage rooms and cool shit inside. Log in one day. One side of the building is missing its entire wall. Can see the entire building's interior from that side now. Who griefed the base? Neither brother nor sister claims responsibility. Why would they? We spent months on this world, what reason would they have to destroy our hard work? They seem genuinely sincere. Conclude it's Herobrine. Delete world. What happened that day, bros?
ArmA 2 was such a creepy game when played alone at night. Me and my friend would work ourselves into a terror roaming the Chernarus countryside at night in this pointless ambient combat mission I put together, getting scared at phantom noises of church bells and glimpses of movement in the forest through NVGs. The strangest thing to this day was some of the inevitable, eventual attempts by our AA squad members to betray and murder us. ArmA 2 gave you a score, where you got points for killing enemies, which was mostly pointless, lost some points for killing civilians, and lost even more for killing your own team. When you play the same mission for 4 hours straight, I guess, the random civilian NPCs caught in your arty strikes or physics glitched to death must add up, because it felt like there was always a point where suddenly, out of the blue, the squad UI disappeared. Then we'd hear our former squad member read out, in that TTS voice, "To here." In taking command before everyone slowly started turning their guns towards us. Cue heated gunfight. Most of the time it was a funny shock. But sometimes, instead of happening the right way I describe above, where all the AI receive the if score less than threshold event at the same time, it would just be one guy. Just one member of the squad would turn to us and open fire without saying a word. It'd usually take us long enough to realize we weren't being attacked by enemies that one of us would die. And once the other returned fire, then the massive score drop for killing a friendly would trigger the normal series of events. But that one guy just got fed up first. Never felt quite right.
I've got one similar to this. Playing Left 4 Dead Coop with 2 other friends. Nobody picks Lewis, except our one absent friend, when it's just 3 of us. AI Lewis ends up being the punching bag most of the time. Get to finale of Dead Air on expert difficulty. Hiding in one of the respawn closets with jerry cans that we gathered before starting the crescendo event. We had been trying to finish this finale for a couple hours now. During our attempts, Lewis would always get in our line of fire or wander out into the open to get killed. This time Lewis, completely unprovoked as of this attempt, starts full auto-firing into the jerry cans, burning us all to death. All 3 of us lose our shit tearing up and coughing from the ensuing 5+ minute long laughing fit. Still a little creeped out that an AI that old did something like that, but it's one of my fonder memories of that game.
A childhood friend of mine was a Pokemon fan and had a bunch of games, all the way from the GBC Red, Blue, and Yellow versions to the current, as of that time, GameCube and GBA games. I had never played Pokemon before and asked if I could start a new save on one of his games. I picked Yellow because my brothers had a copy growing up and I always wanted to play it when I was younger. He said that he hadn't touched the game in forever, but he wanted to check the save that was on there to be sure he was okay wiping it. He loaded up the save, checked his party in the PC, and decided it would be fine to wipe the save. After he was done he handed me the Game Boy and I booted it up. Upon selecting New Game, however, Oak appears and the music plays for a few seconds, but then it abruptly stops, Oak's sprite glitches out/darkens, and the sound of Ghastly's cry plays, and the game freezes there. Every attempt to reboot results in the same thing happening. Might have just been the result of a poorly kept cart, but it was frigging creepy nonetheless.
Yes, actually. I have no evidence with me anymore, so you'll have to take my word for it. Many years ago, I played World of Warcraft, and accidentally got myself wedged in the wall between an undercity elevator and the shaft wall. My character was shunted into a new universe, almost like a backroom scenario. I ended up falling into the Venture Company waterfall area in Stone Talon Mountains. Essentially, this new world was an odd place. It had the environment of Kalimdor, but all of the mobs, assets, and features of the Eastern Kingdoms, but in strange and odd configurations. This included the undercity elevator going up and down, partially embedded in a Stonearalan mountain cliffside. A literal alliance ship blocking my way to the nearby Horde town. Enemy and neutral mobs floating in space, as if they existed on a different plane of existence. Areas where it was clearly land, but would trigger my character's breath and fatigue meters, so there were clearly invisible places I couldn't go. My regional chat, despite being in Stone Talon, was in Undercity, Lord Aaron. Otherwise, the world was completely devoid of life, except for those sorts of glitches I've just described. The true problem started when I tried to Hearthstone my way out. It literally did not work. The meter ran down, the animation triggered, and nothing happened. Logging off and on didn't fix anything. The unstuck command did nothing. Death solved nothing. I was stuck. I eventually got some of my guild members to finally frigging believe me. Warlock summons did not work. They even tried to meet me at that dungeon outside of the crossroads to summon me, and while I showed up on their mini-maps, I clearly wasn't there. It took a GM around 30 minutes to fix my problem and bring me back into the real game world, after trying almost every conceivable trick in the book.
In 2006 I would followed this guy around for days. I was max level and got pretty bored, so I picked a random person in Orgrimmar and added him to my friends list. I then went and got the entire Viper set from Wailing Caverns and a human Halloween mask. The next day he came on, still remember his name, it was Adigan, and I just followed him around. I didn't talk, didn't emote, didn't attack. If I got attacked by a mob I would just follow him until the mob killed me, then I would run back and do it some more. I did this for a solid month. Every time he came on I'd stop what I was doing and immediately find him. Eventually he stopped coming on and I forgot about him, but when WoW released he came on and I did it again for 2 days till I got bored. Not really creepy, but I like to think I made him uneasy.
Not really. But back in the day when Gran Turismo 3 came out, I tried for 2 months to get all gold licenses and failed. I smoked a bowl one night, having never smoked weed before. 2 hours or so later I had every gold license there was to have, including the super licenses. I don't smoke too often anymore, maybe twice a year, but that first time I was in the game, it felt like I had been there when the tracks were designed and knew every inch of every track. From then on, every new GT that came out I would smoke a bowl and get gold licenses within the first 3 tries.
Star Wars Pod Racer. Woke up one morning to find the game paused. I lived upstairs and my brother and mother were away, so it was just me and my dad. I unpaused the game. It was way off the track, in some open world landscape on one of the maps. I remember finding it really cool, to just cruise around like that, but never knew how to get there. I tried so many times to break out of the track to find the open world part. I knew it wasn't my dad who played it, as he usually passes out early, and wouldn't just leave it on pause like that because he turned shit off at the wall, etc. To save electricity, and he never gamed. I have no idea who turned it on, or who go to that point of the map I could never find. Never realized how weird this was, until a few years ago after remembering it. Paranormal to me because I just never been able to explain any part of it.
Playing Day of Defeat 3.1 late one night on a bot server. There are always 2 more bots than max players. If just me and server there are only 2 bots, but if someone joins then adds another bot. If person leaves then bot stays, but server won't add another bot until the max player count hits 3. Bots have names like Private Skittles Easy, it's easy to learn their paths, and all have ping of 0. I'm playing alone, owning them, and randomly another bot adds, Corporal Candy. I hit tab to check if someone had joined because I don't see the prompt of someone joining. I'm alone. Weird, maybe someone joined and then left before I saw and it added the bot. Keep playing, get killed a few times by new bot but then learn their patterns and start owning them. Randomly another bot adds, General Jolly? Hit tab to see if I missed something. See no one has joined, definitely a bot because it is ping 0. Think maybe an admin is watching me and adding bots to mess with me. Keep playing, get killed a few times but learn their patterns. Another bot joins, Captain Crawler. Okay. Seriously WTF. I camp and wait for the bots to come up their normal path and nail all of them except there is no Captain Crawler. Sneak out and look around, see nothing and get knifed in the back. There is no way besides wall hacks that he could have got there. Sit in spawn and try and process what the hell just happened. Sneak out and camp in another spot. Head footsteps of the other 4 guys running up and jump out and shoot them. Stab, I'm dead. Captain Crawler again. Hit tab to see if he has a ping. 0. Respawn again, this time sneak around and be very quiet. Normally could hear footsteps from bots on their normal routes, hear nothing. Hide in corner of room and aim at door. Head knife stabs against wall outside, not just one but all 5 bots at once. Voice chat icon for Captain Caller comes up, playing stabbing sound. Still stabbing outside room. Alt F4. Was my favorite game as a child but haven't played DoD since.
More of a dream I had. Playing Conker's Bad Fur Day, N64, ROM hack, sort of a snow level with polar bears and some icy ponds. Skip to inside of a tree, warm atmosphere, and summon Rouge the Bat plus some book with a whole list of cheats in it. Look through some of them, slide puzzle, Halloween theme, bunch of other stuff I can't remember, and pick the one that gets rid of all enemies. Go back outside, same snowy area with all polar bears gone and explore for a bit. Areas go as follows. Snowy pine tree forest with icy ponds complete with fishing holes, dark with fog and eventual mountains that rise up to nowhere. Walked to another open area, connected to first. Large rocky mountain area, reddish-brown texture but the rock looks like faces, akin to soul sand in Minecraft. Walk into a large hole in the mountain. Cave area very similar hazy mazy cave in graphics and layout, tightrope-like path that twists around. Shadows drop down from the ceiling and I sort of knew it was for those really low-quality spiders you see that are just made up of sear parts. Enter last area, through door? Or hole? Can't remember, been a long time. Yellow floor, gradient along yellow walls up to completely black ceiling, lots of rectangular indents along walls and large pillars in random organized areas. Lots of shiny black statues scattered around the area, shown in attached image, assumed to be an art museum? I remember this part pretty well, I kept going down as far as I could. The pillars of the place kept twisting around and making it way harder to traverse it, from straight lines, to longer walls, to a full maze that felt pretty claustrophobic. I kept hearing sounds throughout the whole thing like a knock or echoes or something. At the point I got to the claustrophobic maze where it got really hard to walk, I suddenly heard footsteps and jangling of keys, freaked the hell out, trying to reset or shut down the game, didn't work, and by that point I woke up.
I have a Minecraft world that, as schizo as it makes me sound, I am convinced something is residing in it. Keep finding crafting tables all over the world in new areas. Have found non-natural tunnels around the world. Made my house out of the wood from an old village, weird things happen to the house as well now, possibly related. Have found random tilled dirt in areas without villages or any mobs. Found a chest with perfect, fully repaired copies of my tools and armor. Keep finding signs around the world, usually blank but sometimes have gibberish on them. Have found a few books and quills that I didn't make but they have always been blank. Tried writing hello in one but when I checked it later it was blank again. If it's relevant but I've had the world since they first added jungles, I don't know if anything they changed with the world gen could cause these things to happen.
Be me. Some years ago, playing Rust alone at 2 a.m. on an empty server. Hear footsteps coming from the right. A horse is standing on its hind legs. Running. It runs like this behind a boulder and disappears. Shit myself and turn off PC. Definitely wasn't paranormal, but it scared the shit out of me.
I once downloaded a torrent for the original Diablo, probably about 12 years ago. I was excited because I hadn't played it since we sold the PS1 version. I had to get a PS2. So, I booted up and started as a warrior, as always. I can't describe it, but even though I hadn't even descended into the dungeon, there was a strong feeling of dread. Just walking around the town felt like the scariest video game I'd ever played, even though I'd played much scarier games like Silent Hill 1, 2, all the Resident Evil games, Doom 3, etc. I was also about 17 or 18 at the time, so I was pretty desensitized to anything scary. This game just got to me though, and I couldn't shake it. Forging on, I went down into the dungeon. I walked around for a bit and no enemies were around anywhere for about 5 minutes. Then, I see the butcher walking towards me. I get freaked out because I know he is the first boss and shouldn't show up until after I'd had a chance to level up a bit and get some gear. He kills me and I feel my heart sink. Something really isn't right here. I go to tell my dad in the other room what's going on, and before I can speak he's like, "Anon, check this shit out." Now, for context, we had a running joke between us about John Wayne being God for years. He's watching a John Wayne movie on DVR, and he rewinds it to show John Wayne speaking. The caption's all jumbled and messed up, but inside the jumble, in red letters it says "I am God." Then the next caption is still all jumbled up, and in the middle, in green it says, "You are ass." The last jumbled caption box, at the end, in red it says "throws." My dad and I shared a username across multiple sites and consoles that was throws_o_rejection88. He was laughing about it, but when I told him what I just experienced, he got quiet. We went back to the computer room and Diablo was still running on the screen. So we decided that I must have downloaded Haunted Torrent and took action. We took the file, burned it to a DVD, deleted the file from the PC and did a system restore to about a week prior, then we defragged the computer. We also deleted the movie on DVR for good measure. We took the DVD and I held it over the trash in the kitchen and tried to snap it in half. Usually, when I broke a DVD or CD, it would just pop into 2 equal halves, but this one shattered and pieces flew at us. My dad even got cut on the arm from a shard. Swept up all the pieces, put the bag out for trash pickup, and everything seemed to be alright from there. Not the strangest paranormal experience I've ever had, but it's up there in the top 5.
Sometimes I expose myself to creepy situations since I really enjoy liminal spaces. Whenever I feel anxious, I clear Sacred Gold's caves and stay inside, preventing respawning. Sometimes I'd hear new sound effects, and since I've been playing this game as a comfort game since I was a little girl, it spooks the shit out of me. Like there can't be anything new, yet it feels eerie. Quake alone and No Zombies Zomboid also help getting really paranoid. When there's nothing to shoot, you feel more observed than when you don't have to think where to go, because you're being chased by hordes or players. Still, even if not paranormal, I believe the most scared a video game has ever made me feel was The Sims. Sometimes at night, in the first game, they would anonymously call your lot at night. Some of those calls are pranks, about the freezer and such. But there was this one that said something in the lines of, "They're coming, you should think twice before opening the door." Boy, do I swear that damn message still sends chills down my spine whenever it pops, lol.
When I was like 7, I was watching my brother play RuneScape when he got up and went to the bathroom. I stared at the screen where his character was idly standing and the foot of a gigantic baby blue creature steps near him and then walks off screen. I tell my brother when he gets back, but he didn't believe me. If you don't know RuneScape, there isn't and has never been a mob like that in the game.
One of the scariest experiences in a video game I can recall was me and my brother doing a 1v1 in ArmA with the map set to Rainy Night. Listening to the howling wind and knowing that the other is out there was already enough to get both of us on edge, But what was even worse was the modded and gray alien that he had placed in the forest that separated where we had spawned at. I never did see, and I'm honestly not sure if he was bullshitting me or not, but it sure as shit took a long time for either of us to get the courage to actually go and look for the other.
Bonus story: Quake 3 bots. Quake 3 bots were designed based off an artificial neural network. They would effectively think to figure out the best way to do things. They would see which tactics worked and which didn't, reusing the ones that worked and discarding the ones that didn't. The longer they played, the more they would learn about you, figuring out your patterns, and this would apply towards other bots as well. For all intents and purposes, they were one of the first learning AI in a game. When I found this out, I set up a Quake 3 arena server on my pirating server just to have 16 bots face each other over and over to see how good they would get. I set the server up 4 years ago, it's been running the entire time. I forgot about it until this thread. I'm gonna go check on them.
Oh my god, IP? I feel like losing.
1 second. I just checked on them, but for some reason all the bots are just standing still. I'm gonna try changing the map. It was cycling through maps automatically, but I guess it got stuck or something.
Could make sense. I am not fully buying into this, but if what you said is true, the only winning move logically for them is not to play.
Maybe they have learned that the best technique to survive is to make a peace and to stand there for an eternity, waiting for a purpose or salvation.
They know when to fight and run, such as low health or weapons that can't win the situation for them. I just changed the map and they keep standing still. I have a program that tracks player movements on the server and they're literally just standing there. I'm gonna download Quake 3 Arena and see if they turn back on when I get back on the server. Give me a few minutes.
The ultimate survival strategy developed over the 4 years. Nobody dies if nobody kills. They've achieved something we couldn't. World peace.
I bet they all kill you the second you enter, because you threaten their coexistence.
I actually really hope those bots kill the dude entering the server, and then go back to being at peace. That would be proof they hit a point where they stopped killing each other.
Hey, server guy. Place a new bot. Let's see what will happen to it. Disturb the peace. Ruin the balance. Force them into a new endless war.
I don't know how to add new bots. I think I'd have to delete the AI log for one of the existing bots. On that note, I should check those after I'm done this. Starting up Quake 3 now, we'll report back in a minute if they kill me. Okay, that was pretty friggin' weird. I joined the server and the bot still just stood there, but the messed up thing was they would rotate to look at me. I walked around a little bit and they all just kept looking at me. So I grabbed a railgun and fragged one of them. They all ran for the nearest weapons, took me down, and the server crashed. Welp, I don't really know what to say about this. It was a teamless deathmatch server, which made it all the weirder when they didn't attack each other, and went straight for me.
Reload it back up and see what happens. I am willing to bet the bot's memories were erased, and if you load it back up they will be back to their normal selves.
Oh god, I just checked the AI logs. Each bot has a separate one. They're each 512 megabytes.
I want to believe. Show me the proof.
Sorry, my server machine is acting slow as hell right now. Took me forever to get to this screen. They're not those kind of logs, they're tactical logs based on what has worked, and what hasn't worked in battle. For all intents and purposes, they're memories. Man, it's 512 megabytes per bot. 16 bots. It's 8 gigabytes of information. The semi-sentient bastards should be glad I haven't decided to delete them for taking up space on my hard drive.